that I'm using the position of Savarkar only for the purposes of protection from the outsider. When you choose to use the very same stereotypes that were minted in the crucible of the missionary and the Marxist, and you use that under the social justice label, under the label of reform, to start attacking these institutions, you're not doing any service to Hindutva. I say this bluntly, Savarkar would have disagreed with you because you quote Savarkar when it comes to beef consumption. Savarkar never said that. The problem is from here the jump will be, there Sai Deepak supports untouchability. And I say this bluntly today, I'm not going to hold my punches back. You want a textbook example of what happens when you start making the Brahmin the hate figure, and from there the jump to the church is not too far. Take a look at Punjab. Keep attacking the Vedic core of the Hindu philosophy in whatever name, under whatever rubric, under whatever umbrella, you're paving the way for anti-Hinduism at some point or the other. If you had the guts to create a hate figure outside, you would identify the true culprit outside. The Vedic Sanatana Dharma happens to be the core of Hindu Dharma for all practical purposes, the epicenter of this entire ocean that has been created. So what are you telling those institutions? Are you asking us to leave this country? If yes, how different are you from the Naxalwadi or the Marxistwadi or the Jihadi? The biggest threat to Hinduism, especially in Uttar Pradesh, is going to come from Chandrasekhar Azad.
My question is not directed at anyone specific here, but I would like to set the context by quoting a tweet from Mr. Sai Deepak. In the interest of making their
the subtitle said sidewalk.
Law-abiding lives livable in an increasingly hostile environment, it would help to keep at a distance the newly minted alleged Hindutva-vadi social justice warriors who push leftist anti-dharmic stereotypes under the garb of Hindutva using Savarkar. With that, two questions related to Savarkar's Hindutva, because we know there are certain definition problems. So, although it may be a misunderstanding, one of the byproducts of Savarkar's Hindutva has been the promotion of a neo-atheist idea, or what I perceive as an anything goes idea of Hinduism, which is contrary to ritualism and Devopasana. How much does this impact or say harm the essence of being a Hindu and of course Hindutva itself? Brilliant. Second part. Savarkar also advocated for the annihilation of caste, a stance he pursued vigorously in the aftermath of the Khilafat movement. He saw this as essential for protecting Hindus and organizing them into a Sangathan. How do you view this perspective? Also, it would be really insightful if all of you could discuss on this, including Ashish sir. Thank you.
That's why when I close
Ashish sir को क्यों single out किया?
My opening remarks, I said that I stand with him on the question of protection of everyone. And I prefaced it by saying that when it comes to Hindu institutions and Hindu Jeevan Pranali, my position is obviously calibrated. The attack on Varnashrama Dharma, according to me, is the direct product. And according to me, that is the textbook instance of the success of leftist propaganda across the country. I will stand by the very clear statement that caste hatred, caste supremacism have no place. They never did. They should never have any place whatsoever. Be that as it may, Varnashrama Dharma certainly has purchase when it comes to some of our traditional institutions. Those who do not wish to subscribe to the values of those traditional institutions are under no fatwa-esque obligations to do so. You have been provided alternatives to it. From the Gayatri Parivar to every other organization that believes in disseminating the knowledge of the Vedas freely to everyone regardless of jati, there is no restriction whatsoever. The ones who wish to subscribe to those notions must equally have the freedom to do so because the Constitution permits it under Article 26. So the question that I would want to ask is, since the ones who constantly speak on the subject quote Dr. Ambedkar, did he put in a provision in the Constitution asking for destruction of caste as a structure or jati as a structure or varna as a structure, despite having written a book on the subject?
I don't think he did.
For whatever reason. Whether he wanted to do so to preserve reservations for a certain group of people, that's a different issue altogether, but he chose not to do so. Right? I am of the very clear view that
Even that could it be the actual reason? क्योंकि जो Constituent Assembly की debates वगैरह हैं, ठीक है, because it is always scrutinized. Reservations are always scrutinized. और बार बार जाके देखते हैं कि what was the इनिशियल इंटेंशन ऑफ रिजर्वेशंस. तो जब कॉन्स्टिट्यूंट असेंबली की डिबेट्स देखते हैं तो इट वाज ऑलवेज इंटेंडेड टू बी अ टेम्पररी टूल कि इवेंचुअली अ पॉइंट विल कम where the society will rise up and they will say that we no longer need reservations. I don't think Ambedkar would want to preserve Jati just so that he could give them reservations that would eventually end anyway. So that is a very long shot. Plus, Ambedkar was so vehemently against caste, then I don't think he would trade it for anything else. Like the destruction of it, he would trade it for anything else. He wouldn't trade it. He wouldn't trade it for any form of reservation. He wouldn't trade it for anything. So this idea does not seem correct, although he isn't implying that it is. But
using the position of Savarkar only for the purposes of protection from the outsider. But how this system will conduct itself within itself, there is significant diversity for everyone. You want to follow the Arya Samaji route, you have the freedom to do so. The problem arises when you're basically saying that traditional Vedic institutions must subscribe to and stand by the values of Arya Samaj or Gayatri Parivar or anybody else. We are saying to each his own. These are institutions that are run by Shastras, these are institutions that are run by Smritis, these are institutions that are run by Puranas, these are institutions that are run by Sthala Puranas. Allow them to do what they want to do. Which means, assume for a moment, let's take the same Sabarimala example and take it forward. If you choose to construct a newly minted Ayyappa temple in any part of this country, and you choose that the rules of this temple will be very different from the rules of the actual Ayyappa temple, can anybody stop you from doing so? But that institution is the epicenter, and that institution will live by the book that has consecrated it or that governs its practice. Right? Let's assume for a moment you set up a new temple altogether in every street, wherever you want to. And you say, sorry, here Varnashrama Dharma will not reign at all. And we will choose to appoint somebody else as the priest because we believe that he's trained, he's good enough, his character, we want him. Who can stop you? Who will stop you? Legally, you can't be stopped. Shastrically, you can't be stopped. That's for you to decide. But what is it that you're constantly trying to do? Is that you're constantly trying to foist your notions on that group which is today a minority. That institution which is a minority. And the fact of the matter is, these are the only institutions that have managed to withstand the test of time when it comes to preserving the spiritual aura of that place. That is why people still go to these places of all the institutions that have been built across the centuries. These are the institutions everybody gravitates to. That is why when I use the word decolonization, I'm saying you have chosen to look at your own history with such an absolute loathsome vision that you don't even want to understand what it speaks of. You don't even want to understand what is its position when it comes to an Advaita philosophy, what is its position when it comes to Vyavaharik philosophy, when it comes to certain places. We don't want to strike the distinction at all whatsoever. So I am very clear that when you choose to use the very same stereotypes that were minted in the crucible of the missionary and the Marxist, and you use that under the social justice label, under the label of reform, to start attacking these institutions, you're not doing any service to Hindutva. And in fact, if I may say so, I say this bluntly, Savarkar would have disagreed with you because you quote Savarkar when it comes to beef consumption. Savarkar never said that. Savarkar simply said, please learn to protect people as much as you protect cows. That was his position. He did not actively say that I will hurt the sentiments of Hindus by actually putting out pictures of beef consumption. You want to eat it? I'm sorry to say, I don't agree with it, but the choice is yours. I can't do anything beyond that, unfortunately so. But do you want to really hurt people's sentiments by doing this? I'm sorry, then how are you any different from Burhan Wani? You're not. Please understand this. Hinduism is calibrated and diverse. It doesn't follow the one-size-fits-all template of other religions. I am not saying dehumanize people. The problem is from here the jump will be, there Sai Deepak supports untouchability. That will be the jump from there. That will be the jump from there. Everyone who resorts to this mischievous reduction is not a friend of a Hindu. And I say this bluntly today, I am not going to hold my punches back. You want a textbook example of what happens when you start making the Brahmin the hate figure, and from there the jump to the church is not too far. Take a look at Punjab. Take a look at Punjab. They first decided to vilify the Brahmin in the name of newly minted versions of Khalistanism under the British period. From there, they gradually moved towards anti-Hinduism because the jump from there is not much. After that, how far do you think is the jump from there to the church or Islam? Throw in drugs, it's over. And you're losing a crucial battleground border state. So I'm very clear. Keep attacking the Vedic core of the Hindu philosophy in whatever name, under whatever rubric, under whatever umbrella. You're paving the way for anti-Hinduism at some point or the other.
This is for people who are supposedly follow Hindutva, but then they go on to have this reformist rant कि हमें okay ठीक है Hinduism is fine, we support it, but इसमें थोड़ी reforms की ज़रूरत है. And then in the name of reforms, what kind of reforms? The Marxist ideology, the basically the ideologies that have been imported from the West, और फिर उन reforms को थोपेंगे on institutions that are trying to, that only a handful of institutions that are trying to actually spread the Vedic Sanatan Dharma. So that first, that reform is not correctly targeted to where it should be targeted. And second, it's not helping. You're not helping Hindutva or Hinduism by doing that. You're just playing into the hands of the foreign powers or people who just want to convert this land into Abrahamic religion. So people need to see the nuances of things and then stop playing into the hands of the other side. That is what he's saying. Okay, don't take it as my opinion. I don't think I'm qualified to do that, but this is what I've understood.
Two more examples. Tamil Nadu, parts of coastal Andhra, Kerala. The jump is not far. Stop vilifying people. You can't say that I'm going to unify Hinduism by making one group the punching bag of your positions constantly in the hope that it will unify people by creating a hate figure within. You don't have the guts to create a hate figure outside, therefore you're constantly creating a hate figure within. If you had the guts to create a hate figure outside, you would identify the true culprit outside. You don't want to do that because today you're willing to co-opt the jihadi but alienate the Brahmin. That is a conscious choice that some people have made within the Hindutva fold. That is the conscious choice they've made, that we will isolate these groups because we need to accommodate everybody else. What vision is this? So what is the message that you're sending to people who subscribe by the rules of the Veda? Answer that question first, because the Vedic Sanatana Dharma
Simply the message is that stop following the Vedic Sanatan Dharma and get turned into this political, like follow this political trail or ये wave ride करके आ जाओ हमारे side में, so that it feels like that we have reformed into this postmodern society. It is because of the politics, but it is also because of the society at large in Hindus. We have this loathsome tendency to look at ourselves with contempt and then just please the other side. ठीक है? Even though we see them as other side, but still we want validation from them. So that needs to stop. Plus, just because you want to accommodate everyone, you shouldn't be isolating someone who is your ideological guide, so to speak. So where does it end? Do we completely give up our principles in order to pursue some political ends, or do we have to maintain a balance of both? What do you guys think? Please tell me in the comments.
happens to be the core of Hindu Dharma for all practical purposes, the epicenter of this entire ocean that has been created. So what are you telling those institutions? Are you asking us to leave this country? If yes, how different are you from the Naxalwadi or the Marxistwadi or the jihadi? This question needs to be answered. This is the most raging internal debate that needs to be addressed, because this virus has infected our ideology. And the discussion is not happening in the places where it has to happen, because people are taking pot shots sitting in their ivory towers, when the price is actually being paid by people on the ground. You are inciting people against each other on the ground. Go to parts of Uttar Pradesh. The biggest threat to Hinduism, especially in Uttar Pradesh, is going to come from Chandrasekhar Azad. You take it from me. You take it from me. It's going to come from that gentleman.
I think the idea here is to point out the fact that Hindus have this tendency to create fissures, create divisions within themselves. And that is their biggest weakness. No matter what form of threat comes from outside, as long as Hindus themselves are united, then that threat can be defeated, it can be avoided, it can be postponed or whatever. But since fissures are being created within the Hindu fold itself, there is nothing to save us from ourselves. तो वही point है यहाँ पे.
And people sitting here will co-opt even
Maybe people don't know who Chandrasekhar is. He's that guy who has risen like this Dalit icon in UP. So again, the caste divisions.
When him
in the name of Hindu unity and alienate everybody else. Wait.
And what is also interesting, even though Chandrasekhar hasn't achieved anything politically or in any other way, like most of you don't even know him, probably, but yet he was being flaunted by the media, like the left liberal media across the world. He was on the cover of several magazines abroad as well. So you see how these powers are helping these fissures. They see a spark. Okay, थोड़ा सा धुआं है तो थोड़ा सा इसमें kerosene और डालो. So that is the kind of thing that's being done. So I don't think how blind people have to be to see that, but this is how it is.
Wait for this to happen. This is the direction in which we are hurtling at this point. In the process, you don't have what it takes to create knowledge. You have not preserved anything. You will destroy and spew and spit on everything that has been created for millennia. So my answer is very clear. My positions on this subject are not at loggerheads with Hindu dignity and Hindu unity. They are not. And if you constantly want to use untouchability as the touchstone for every position on Varnashrama Dharma, I'm sorry to say, you must be treated as an insider-outsider or a mole or a Trojan, which is even worse than the outsider.